What's up, fam? Hope you are doing fantastic out there. Today we are taking a look at a knife I honestly didn't even know existed. This is the Kizer Little Rhino. So there we can get it real up close and personal thanks to this big old box. So it is a Polish knife designer. I am not going to try to pronounce that name. I apologize if you're watching this. I don't know why you would be, but apparently he's been making knives or designing knives for 20 years now. I've never heard of this designer. Pretty cool style so far from what I'm seeing. But anyway, Little Rhino, 2.72 inches. This is the D2 version. They do make an AEBL version. And then this is the olive green and black G10. They also make a tan micarta version. That is the AEBL version. So typical of Kizer, we're just going to go ahead and get the pocket or the sheath out of the way. All this stuff is typical of Kizer with their fixed blades. You have a Tech Lock-y kind of clip here, and is non-locking, so it doesn't slide to lock or anything like that. But works well enough. It's just pretty standard. I always take these clips off and then just use these as pocket dropper sheaths until I can get a proper leather pocket slip or something like that. So again, this is the Little Rhino. You can kind of get an idea why it has that name or how it got that name or where the designer came up with that name. Very interesting handles. We'll do a zoom in on those here in just a few moments. But again, this is the D2 version. Both versions, the D2 and the AEBL, are both $60. I will have them linked below. But you're, again, 2.72 inches on your blade, and then 6.89 inches overall, and then just 3.5 ounces. So a fairly, it's kind of in between weight on the knife. It is a pretty decent chunk of D2. Black washed, of course, so no issues there. And then you have this kind of, you have the karambit hole here, but, just really interesting blade shape, really interesting blade for this blade shape, but it's meant to be a kind of a camp cook cleaver, or just a camp knife in general is kind of what the designer was hoping for. And I can definitely see that it would be, it would fit into that role pretty well. Pretty well. But let's go ahead and jump in to our close-ups, and we will just kind of go over everything all together here. So again, black wash blade here on the D2. I do love a good D2 blade, especially well done D2. And Kizer seems to do theirs pretty well. And then, of course, being coated doesn't hurt anything. A little bit of a blade window there just to kind of give some stylization here. No chamfering or anything like that, or excuse me, no crowning or anything on the spine. No swedges or anything like that. Really nice, tall, flat grind here. Plenty of jimping there on the back of the blade, right in that thumb swell. Really nicely done there. And then here is a departure from what Kizer has done in the past. So you can see that milling, really deep ridged milling here on this multi-layer G10. So you've got the OD green or olive green and black, and it is just really, really, really super aggressive and very grippy. I can only imagine the micarta version being way even more grippy. So again, the micarta version is AEBL still as well. So if you would prefer that, then you can certainly do that. It's a stone wash blade versus being black washed. But T8 hardware here on the screws that hold the scales on. So if you don't like the handles, of course, you can always change that up on these fixed blades. Easy enough to do that. Tons of custom makers out there for handle scales, anything, and it's something that's honestly easy enough you can do yourself if you know what you're, if you're decent enough with some power tools. Plunge grind is phenomenal. I mean, it just is. I mean, it's kind of hard to screw up a plunge grind on something like this, but your plunge grind ends immediately, and then you have, the entire blade thickness to sharpen it. So, I mean, possibilities are endless here. Speaking of sharpening, I believe we're doing pretty good on that. It looks pretty decent, the whole edge. It's a little bit off here and there, but nothing to really speak of, so can't really complain on that. And the edge, of course, Kizer usually does a really good job on their edges. Here you can see that the karambit hole here, so you do have jimping here on the back of the karambit hole, so you can certainly use this cleaver in the, as DVD calls it, the beef jerky defender grip. And you have that jimping there. The hole is definitely large enough to do anything that you need it to do. Getting in here, you can see there's a ton of room in there with the pinky. I really don't have any major issues with this knife, honestly. I didn't quite know what to think about it when I first opened it, and when I first started messing with it. But, I like it. I think it's pretty cool. The one complaint I did have was how, depending on how I grip the knife. So if you can see that there, how that edge is encroaching upon my finger, or how my finger is encroaching upon the edge. So if I have the knife in my normal grip, so my normal full fist grip here, I am all up on that edge. But if I just kind of rotate the knife in my hand a little bit and grip it, and it's just a slightly different grip, then I have plenty of room there, and I'm not in any danger. So I did have to kind of train myself on how to grip this knife. Now in a pinch grip here for doing utility cuts, this thing is phenomenal. It fits in the hand really good in that grip. And like I said, and then if you wanted to just do like a, I don't know, like a weird three-fingered grip, this is a really weird grip. I don't know why anybody would do that, but it just seemed like it was going to go that way. You could not use the finger hole there. Again, I don't know why you wouldn't, but you could just kind of crowd up and get in there like that. You could also, spread out if you want to. Heck, you could almost put 2 fingers in there, as big as that hole is. I don't know, guys. I'm just being silly, trying to stay awake at this point. Quite honestly, it's my last night off, and my last night I always end up binging on doing a bunch of videos and trying to get all this stuff done in one night because I'm so busy doing other stuff throughout the rest of the week while I'm off. So I don't know. I do think this is really cool. Like I said, the handle is unusual to say the least. It's extremely grippy, but it does feel unusual in the hand. I'm not going to lie there one bit. It does feel odd. It takes a little bit to get used to, and then again, you have to kind of adjust your grip. If you have big old fat hands like mine, or not big, just fat hands like mine, then you do kind of need to adjust that grip a little bit to keep from riding up onto that edge. But outside of that, it feels nice in the hand. Feels like it's going to be extremely efficient in use outside. Now, this is not a knife that I plan to keep. So this is one that will be moving on eventually, sometime soon. But I wanted to get a video out on it, so I'm not going to do any hard use testing or anything like that. I'm not going to do any, go out there and try to baton this thing through anything. But I can just assure you from the mass amounts of knives that I've had in my hand, and knowing how edges work and all that stuff, this thing's going to work just fine. And I've handled more than my fair share of Kizer D2, and it always holds up very well. This one's nice and sharp out of the box, so no issues there at all. Hardware was done well. Clip has good retention on it, so no issues there. I do, like I said, I don't ever really use these clips or use these sheaths like this, so it's not something where I hard test these things, so I can't say how well they hold up. But I've never had any real issues with them in pocket or pack carry. So if your mileage varies, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of this knife in general. Like I said, I had the micarta version. I think would probably be a better fit for me, just because I think the micarta would probably feel better than the G10. But honestly, this one's not too far off. I'm not too mad at it. So let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. As always, I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Please remember to be kind, be humble, and be EDC. Y'all take care.